What is going on, Bills fans? Lance Nelson here, the president of Built-in Buffalo. To my right is Mr. Benjamin Shoop, and to my left, Scott Casson. This is a brand new episode of Triple Coverage Podcast. And on my left side, I have a beautiful, beautiful Dalton Kincaid signed mini first-round draft pick from our partners at Buffalo Belia Sports and More. Check out Buffalo Belia Sports and More for all your great Bills memorabilia. You can find them on Facebook, and I will drop the link in the comment section. Benjamin Shoop, how are you this evening, sir?
Doing good. You know, it's the start of, for me at least, I know some people do them before, it's the start of fantasy drafts tonight for me, and got just telling Scott I got 5 in the next 6 days, and, you know, I can barely do 5. I'm not sure if I'm going to love it this year, but we'll see how it goes. But it's the start. I know everybody's excited for that. Especially, you know, seasons. I mean, that just means that football is officially starting, right? Officially starting with fantasy coming up. So excited for that. And yeah, doing good tonight.
And Mr. Scott Casson, what's going on, brother?
Doing great. We got week 1 of college football this weekend. I could not be more excited. Might be a bit of a hot take, but I like college football more than the NFL. I like the Bills.
I just lost my first parlay last night because Colorado couldn't win by 10. I had them.
Well, you should have asked me. I had North Dakota State and UNC. Parlays are for suckers. That's how they get you. Straight bets only.
I had Minnesota, and then I had Colorado plus or minus 10.
Yeah, North Dakota State's a really good team. I'm very surprised Colorado scheduled them, but that's not what the show's about, unfortunately. But yeah, excited to talk some Bills with you guys, and by this time next week, we'll have an NFL game already played, and we'll be
absolutely
it's about 36 hours away from Bills football. So very excited to talk about the roster.
Yeah. I mean, we'll just jump right into it. We're going to do a little bit of something not too much different than what we normally do. We're going to have a couple quick questions, quick thoughts. Not going to be a long segment with these 3 questions. Just give what we think about them, and then we're going to get into a little bit of the final 53 man, what we expect kind of to change from now on until the season starts. You know, it's a little over a week until kickoff here for the Bills. A lot could change still in the next week for this team, especially they're going to get those finalized moves, what they think for with the team here. But I do have 3 quick questions for you guys. The first one being Bobby Babich officially set to call the defense, right? He's officially being told that McDermott's not going to be calling him to start the season. It's going to be Babich. There's been a lot of talk about this all off season. A lot of people excited to see what Babich can do. I mean, he's a really highly regarded coach. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts on it, what you guys think of it. We'll start with you, Scott. What do you think about Bobby Babich officially set to call the defense?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, I guess that's why you have a defensive coordinator, because the head coach has so many things going on that having to call one side of the ball sometimes other things get neglected. I think we saw that a bit last year with McDermott acting as the defensive coordinator and the head coach. Like, there was just a lot of sloppy errors, like too many guys on the field. Like, so that there were some plays that maybe should have been challenged that like they didn't get the flag out in time. So yeah, I'm excited about it. Excited to see what Babich can do. Like his track record as a position coach with the Bills is incredible. Coaching the safeties, then moving down to the linebackers. So really excited to see what he can do with the whole defense. So yeah, like I think it's a good thing. Take something off McDermott's plate, and now like we get to see like what we have in Bobby Babich, who seems to be kind of like a rising star in the coaching industry.
For sure, I'm pretty excited. I think Babich has been around McDermott for the past 12 years now or so. So it's like he's definitely got McDermott's mind set, I think, on defense, and it helps McDermott shed one responsibility as he's going to have enough as it is. And interesting that he's going to be helping out probably the special teams a lot too. I think that's one thing he's going to have on his plate more than usual with that. So I think it's a great thing for Bobby, and I'm excited to see him because I think he's definitely one of the bright young coaches coming up in this league.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to be excited, right? It's excited on the offensive side with new play calling and new kind of playbook really on that side. And now you, again, have new play calling with McDermott still there to be there if Babich has say, hey, what do you think here? This play or this play? What are we thinking on this kind of type of coverage here? It's going to be a good duo, I think, because the way Babich talks, the way that the players talk about Babich is in such high regard that you just have to see what he's got and see what he can do with the play calling. And McDermott, we know what he can do on the defensive side as well. He's a smart defensive-minded coach. So it's just, I think, them working together, it will take some, like Scott said, some off of McDermott's plate, as well as it's going to give Babich that chance to shine. And on the only downside of it is if he does a great job, there's a chance Bobby Babich could be elsewhere next season if he does a very good job. But, it's still exciting to see. It's, the first time since Frazier's been there that we've had somebody, obviously, since McDermott calling the defense. So, yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time to see how he can handle this defense, especially without Matt Milano being there for the first pretty much majority of the season. So we'll see how he attacks that, see how he uses everybody, and see just what his style is. Is he going to be aggressive? Is he going to be more conservative? Is he going to be kind of a mix of both? We'll see. So Bobby Babich officially set to call the defense. Let us know what you guys think there in the comments as well on him, and if you think that he'll do a good job. But
yeah, let's touch on this real quick if you don't mind. And good comment here from Joey Hatch. And we can take a couple of comments here throughout, and we'll stop and maybe acknowledge them and just talk a little bit about it. Retired referee, we saw early was a first game that he got 2 challenges right off the bat. And McDermott's challenge record, I don't think was super good, but maybe not terrible either. But now with what's the referee's name?
John Perry.
John Perry. So yeah, with John Perry on board, I think it's going to be a lot nicer for the Bills. What do you guys think just about John Perry's new role and kind of how that helps with challenges?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
always...
I think it's
sorry, go ahead, Scott.
No, I would say, yeah, I think it's a really good idea. Kind of surprised that more teams don't do it. Teams bring in full referee crews to ref like the training camp practices so they can kind of see the way things are going to be called. So I think it's a really good idea. It can't hurt to have, an extra set of eyes with that experience on the coaching staff, I'll say. So yeah, like I like it a lot.
Yeah, and for me, it's also just McDermott saying, "Hey, this is something I want to work on, that I need to work on," and he's going out and getting somebody to help him with that, and not just saying, "Oh, well, I'll figure it out on my own." It's he's going to get that help. He's going to get somebody in there to say, "Hey, you're missing this. You're just missing this one small thing when it comes to challenging or whatever it is." So I think it's a good idea. It's always good to get more help. Never hurts. All right. Do you have anything on this, Lance, before? Oh, you muted. Okay.
Classic. We can just roll on with the next one. Sorry.
All right. So speaking of Bobby Babich, though, he did get another guy on his squad there on the defensive side. We talked a little bit about how he might even help out with special teams a little bit, and hopefully can kind of turn them into a great special teams unit in the NFL. But he did get another new player added to his defensive side, right? The Bills did make a trade for Brandon Codrington, cornerback from the Jets, although it's more of not so much for the defensive side, it's more for the special team side. He's going to be that return man. A lot of people were speculating, was it going to be KJ Hamler? Was it going to be Daquan Hardy? Hamler no longer here. Hardy goes to the practice squad, so they end up making a move here. So were you guys shocked by this? What was your guys' just initial really emotions? We'll start with you, Lance. What was your initial thoughts when you saw that this move was made, especially with the Jets?
I was shocked because I thought that that Hardy had done enough, and I thought early on he definitely was making mistakes and sort of rookie things that are coachable. And I'm like, okay, well, he did take a couple returns out from questionable spots and things like that, but it seemed like he was settling in, and I was becoming more encouraged with him, being on the team, and they obviously weren't, and they went out and got their guy. And it was just a little bit surprising to me. I don't know a whole bunch about this guy, and hopefully we're going to learn that this move was really solid coming up here. Cause like, for me, I'm just like, I don't know, man. You had plenty of guys I thought already in the building that could do this, but that's the guy they wanted, and we'll see how that turns out. I don't have a ton of background on this dude, so I'm not going to pretend to know much about him. I just think it's good to identify guys you like from the staff here, and then they are going to go out and hopefully prove us that they know what they're talking about, so we can have a great return game, because the special teams units have been very subpar, and we're going to need that to improve.
Yeah, it surprised me when they made the trade. My first reaction was just, who? I hadn't heard of him. I didn't watch a ton of NC Central football games last year, so I apologize for not watching as much FCS football. I watch a lot, but not as much as I should have, apparently. But the guy definitely has juice. He had I think it was a 62-yard return in a preseason game for the Jets. He had 2 punt returns for touchdowns last year at NC Central. He played a little bit of DB, but he was primarily the returner in college. So yeah, I guess they just thought that they weren't seeing enough out of the guys that we had. Like KJ Hamler, he was in the competition. He did not look good returning kicks in the preseason. I said this 2 weeks ago. It kind of seemed like it was Hardy's job to lose, because when he was returning those punts from inside the 5, I figured that they were telling him to do that because they wanted to see what he could do. Because why else would you do that? Maybe they weren't telling him to do that. And the fact that he returned 2 or 3 from inside the 5 is the reason that they felt like they had to make this move. So we'll see. Would have rather not taken up a roster spot on someone who will most likely only be a returner. But with the new kickoff rule, it's going to be a lot bigger part of the game this year. So I guess they felt like a way to get, some better field position was to bring this guy in, and we'll see. And I don't even know if the full details have come out yet. It was just a late swap of 2025 or 2026 late round picks. So
yeah, 7th rounder.
Yeah, we swapped 7s with the Jets. Oh well. So if it doesn't work out and we move on from him quickly, it's kind of a low risk, high reward type signing. So very surprised by it, but he definitely has juice from what we saw in the preseason with the Jets. So excited to see how it works out.
Yeah, I kind of am similar with you guys. It's not something that we saw coming or thought would really happen, because again, we thought Hardy might be that, but it kind of tells me that, hey, maybe not even just that they don't think Hardy's ready to be a return man. Maybe they also want him to get those reps this season on the practice squad as a corner. They want to develop him in that spot. Teron Johnson's not getting any younger. By the time that 2-3 years roll around, maybe if Teron starts kind of going downhill a little bit, they start to bring Hardy into that situation and say, hey, you're going to be the guy to take over from him and kind of be his successor. So it's kind of tells me maybe that a little bit as well. But it's just, it's nice to see that they are caring about this position. They showed with the Hines move as well that they wanted him as well. So, getting rid of Hines, got rid of some money there. They bring in a guy still that's a little bit cheaper on this end. And maybe with these new rules, they're going to kind of test out to see what they could do there. So, not a huge trade, but definitely nice to see them putting some pressure on this new kickoff rule, this new punt returning, or the punt returning in general. So we'll see how it works out there.
The Bills gave up a 6th round pick in 2025 for a 7th round pick. So that was the swap there with Codrington coming over.
Yeah, move back 20 spots. So at the end of the day, like Scott said, high risk, low reward, or low risk, high reward. So yeah, we'll see what happens there though. Last one for the quick thoughts though, before
2026, sorry, not 25 either. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. So the last thing that before we move on here, quick thoughts again. Lewis Cine or Cine, whichever one it is. I still am not 100% sure. Lance, you were saying Cine. It's just Cine.
Lewis Cine, yeah.
Former 1st round pick, I believe, from the Minnesota Vikings, did just get waived. Now comes over to the Bills on the practice squad. He's a guy that the Bills had in for a top 30 visit the year of his draft. He was very highly regarded, obviously, won as a 1st round pick. Very athletic. If anybody, as Dave said, Dave Myers tweeted out, if anybody loves RAS scores, he had a very good RAS score. So, we'll see what happens with him. But I just want to know what you guys think. We'll start with you, Scott. Do you think he needs to be on the roster week 1, or do you think it's a little bit later? Do you think he doesn't really need to be on it at all this season?
Yeah, I definitely don't think he has to be on the roster week 1. The only way that I see him getting called up for week 1 is if guys like Mike Edwards, DeMar, and Cole Bishop aren't ready to go. And kind of, we haven't really heard a lot about tomorrow, but it seems like Mike Edwards and Cole Bishop should be good to go. And one of the 5 safeties is probably going to be inactive every week anyway. So I don't see them like pulling another guy up. So I don't think so. Like, he's definitely a bit of a project. Like, he's a really good athlete. Injury bug kind of bit him his first 2 years in the league. I think he's only played 9 or 10 games in his first 2 seasons. So he's a guy that it wouldn't shock me if he just sits on the practice squad all year and kind of develops and learns from Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich, who are great at coaching safety. So I like it a lot, kind of like we were just talking about with Codrington, a low risk, high reward kind of signing. If it doesn't work out, we didn't really lose anything. But yeah, he's a really good athlete, and we'll see if it works out. And again, if it doesn't, like, it's not really that big of a deal.
Yeah, from what I heard, and Matthew Collar was on WGR, really not a fan of this guy. Matthew Collar was not really a fan of Lewis Cine, and said, I think Collar covered him in Minnesota and said he's a nice enough guy, but at the end of the day, not aggressive enough. Doesn't have that mentality, that killer instinct that you need at this level. Doesn't think he's necessarily fit for the NFL level. Definitely a great athlete, but maybe between the ears, that little something that has to be wrong with you to play that position, safety in the NFL, maybe Cine just isn't quite there. Doesn't have, the speed of the game is still too fast for him. But that's another reason I think, development down on the practice squad for now is best for him. And I think if there's anyone that's going to squeeze something out of the kid, it's definitely going to be this coaching staff, and that they're specializing at that position, it seems. So I'm excited to see how they handle Cine and see what they can do. Maybe they can come back and have a good, have a good story and kind of resurrect him in this scheme. But I'm not expecting too much from this player.
Sorry about that. My camera just randomly went out and then back on. But yeah, I mean, he's a guy that, like I said, good athlete. As you just said, Lance, maybe not the smartest, maybe not, as aggressive as they'd like, but if there's any coaching staff that can really get the best out of this guy and turn his career maybe around, it is Sean McDermott and this coaching staff. I mean, we've seen it with Jordan Porter. We saw it even, with Micah take really maybe a next level step up once he got here. You've seen guys, Taylor Rapp, kind of play a lot better football here. Just guys taking that their play to a different level. Maybe not all of them are making it to all pros, but they're getting it up a little bit and they're becoming solid NFL players. So I think, if you can get them in the first 3-4 weeks, get them used to the playbook, get them, to kind of get that mindset right in this new Bills defense, maybe you do bring him up and maybe he does take a spot from Hamlin or maybe Cam Lewis, even though I know Cam Lewis is technically right now, I believe, listed as a cornerback, which is kind of weird. I thought he'd be listed as a safety. But either way, maybe he takes a spot from somebody else if they can get a little bit more out of him. So I'm excited that he's at least on the practice squad, gets to get a new start here in Buffalo, and hopefully turn it around a little bit. But that was the last question there for our quick thoughts there. I believe it is time for my 1 minute before we go on to the final 53 and get our thoughts there. So I will just take over here. So my my 1 minute this week has to do with, I talked about fantasy football. I got my first draft tonight. In the span of next 6 days, I got 5 of them, so it's gonna be a lot. I know a lot of you guys are in a lot of leagues. Everybody's in a ton of leagues. So my quick question to you guys this week is, who is your fantasy steal this year? And I'm not saying steal as in a first or second rounder. I'm talking about a guy you're going to get in the later rounds that, maybe not a lot of guys are talking about. Who is your steal of this season? Can be a Bills player. Let us know down in the comments. It doesn't have to be a Bills player. Mine's not going to be a Bills player. Mine's actually going to be a veteran running back who is in a new team of the LA Chargers, and it's going to be Gus Edwards, the Gus Bus. I think he'll have a really good season this year. I think he'll be a guy that gets a lot of touchdowns. I think Harbaugh is going to use him in a good way up there in LA, and I think he might be a guy that even you see used a little bit in the passing game with Justin Herbert. So I'm excited to see him this year, and Gus Edwards is going to be my fantasy steal this year. So let us know down below in the comments. What do you guys got as your fantasy steals this year?
So yeah, mine will be a Bill. I'll say it's Khalil Shakir. He's going really low. Like I've only done one draft so far. Another hot take, like my college football take. I don't like fantasy football that much. I just do it because everybody else does, and I'm bad at saying no. But I think it's Khalil Shakir. He's going really low. Like I think the first draft I did, he went like the 10th or 11th round, which just seems crazy. Like he's a guy who could get 800 yards and 6-7 touchdowns this year, and that's pretty good for like a bench wide receiver, like a flex wide receiver. So Khalil Shakir would be my sleeper there. And yeah, like you said, Gus Edwards, like I kind of forgot until the other day that the Chargers basically took the whole Ravens backfield and moved them to the West Coast because they have J.K. Dobbins too. So Harbaugh is going to run the ball. So I like that one.
Yeah, I think Dawson Knox is probably someone who's going to go really late in drafts. It's going to outproduce where he's drafted. So for that, I'm going to call him a steal. And he's obviously somebody that not a lot of people are talking about. And in this offense, we saw, only kept 5 receivers, and there's going to be a lot of 12 personnel going on there. I wouldn't sleep on Knox finding the end zone and really creating a lot of fantasy value. I guess the one concern with him is keeping healthy and remaining throughout the season. So that remains to be seen. But otherwise, another Bill that I'm watching is Ray Davis too. He's going later in drafts, and for a backup running back, I think he possesses a lot of upside and a lot of ability to go out and smash some expectations this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of Bills players this year, it's not like last year where you had Diggs, Davis, Cook, Allen, the defense, Kincaid. Not like this year, it's a little bit of a question mark. Who knows? Keon Coleman could be another guy too. Curtis Samuel. I mean, down the line, I could see any of those guys really kind of being sleepers this year and steals this year. So, yeah. A lot of Bills players probably going late in drafts, especially to a lot of fans here watching, including myself. I'll probably grab 1 or 2 tonight. Yeah, we'll see who the Bills fantasy steal is and who overall the fantasy steal is this year.
Yeah, if I got to go a non-Bill too, I just want to honorable mention maybe like a Josh Downs or something. I don't think he's going super late in drafts, but I think he may be another guy where he can outproduce if Anthony Richardson stays healthy and can find him more in Indy. I think he's a guy that I like to kind of outproduce his draft position.
Yeah, if I go one non-Bill too, former Bill though, Gabe Davis. I got him in the last round of the one draft I had, and it was a 14-team draft. So like a lot of players gone. I got him in the last round. Like last year, he was a very viable like wide receiver number 2 flex guy. I know he's in a different offense, but like I still feel like they paid him $13 million a year. They're going to throw him the ball. I feel like he's going to get 700 yards and a few touchdowns. Like the last round was just kind of wild to me. So
I do also like Bob's here with Smith-Njigba. I mean, rookie last year, maybe a slow start to last season, but he's got all the skill in the world. That receiving core over in Seattle is a very good one, and we'll see how it kind of changes now with Pete Carroll not being there. So,
or not being Charbonnet is also a guy that I kind of like a little bit too, but we'll see. I don't know exactly where he's going in drafts just yet, but I know he's a backup and all that, but Charbonnet was one guy I've kind of had my eye on since he's come out, and wears number 24 too, so that's always great.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see if any of us are right with any of these steals. I mean, who knows? Maybe we're all wrong, and all of these guys will be duds. But we'll see as the season goes on. But the final 53, as we mentioned, is officially set. Talked a little bit about a few guys that are now on the roster. But quick question to you guys as well. We'll start with you, Lance, here. What really surprised you maybe the most when it came to just cuts or just who made the roster that really surprised you? What surprised you the most?
One of the things I'm most surprised about, I guess, so far is that Mitch Trubisky is still like there as if he's, from what I've been hearing and reading, it's just seemed like, there's no way Mitch is ready to go week 1 and things like that. So maybe that's hearsay and whatnot, and the Bills probably know better than anybody else. So it's just a guess at this point. But I was really kind of expecting by now we would have seen a move with him with maybe an IR with designation to return type of thing. Because I know they couldn't do it necessarily on cut day and they used that other spot. They used both spots for Darrynton Evans and Matt Milano, which was Evans was in and of himself surprised to go on there with the designation to return. But yeah, I was surprised that nothing's been done with Mitchell Trubisky. And then, they did bring in Mike White. So that was a separate thing we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, I'm also surprised by the Mitch Trubisky thing because, like, last week, the last time we saw him, like, dude couldn't really walk. Maybe his knee was just really swollen, but, like, there isn't really anything wrong with it. But, yeah, unless their plan is to keep Mitch inactive for the first couple weeks and, like, elevate Mike White as the backup, or you get that emergency quarterback spot this year. So, like, maybe they don't elevate Mike White. He's just, like, the designated, like, emergency quarterback, which would be a bold strategy. But, yeah, who knows? That surprised me too. Mine, we talked about it a little bit, was Brandon Condrington coming in because, like, I felt like that kind of came out of nowhere. Like, we all thought, yeah, like, Hardy has the return spot, like, pretty nailed down. Apparently, he had a really good camp. He was even playing, like, decent at corner, which they didn't really, which was kind of like a bonus because they really seemed like they drafted him to be the returner. So, and then they traded for Codrington from the Jets. So, like I alluded to earlier, I don't love that they're taking a roster spot for a guy who's just a returner because I don't think he's going to get much burn and playing as a DB. I just don't think he's at that level. But with the new kickoff rule, like, field position is going to be really important. So I guess they're valuing it higher than I am. So surprised that they elected to trade for him instead of keeping like a sixth receiver who could do it, like Isabella or Hamler or something like that, and bring in somebody different.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple shocking ones, and I'm going to go with one that maybe, fans were a little bit shocked about, which, I know everybody was rooting for it. I was rooting for it, and it did happen. What I was shocked Joe Andreessen made the roster. I mean, just because of also them keeping 6 linebackers, not so much that I don't think he played well enough to make this team. I just am shocked. One, they kept 6. I mean, 6 linebackers, and you don't necessarily need them. I thought maybe you can get Andreessen on the practice squad, and if you need to elevate him, you can elevate him, if somebody goes down. I think it's awesome that he did. I love the story. I hope that he can continue to develop and continue to become a very, very good Bill. But I'm just a little bit shocked that they did keep 6, and he was the one that, you knew they were keeping Olafo show, that you knew that they were keeping Spector, Bernard, Williams, and Morrow. It just was a little bit shocking that they kept him on the team. I love it. We'll see what happens there. And then the only other one, I was a little bit shocked La'el Collins got cut, not so much because of his play. He did struggle a little bit, but just because of his versatility and because of his ability or his veteran, status in the league. He's been around the league a little bit. He's been on some good teams. So I'm a little bit shocked he didn't make it. They went with the younger guys. They kept Alec Anderson. They kept Van DeMark and Van Granger. But, I'm not mad about it, but I just was a little bit shocked that he was cut a little bit there. So those were the two that really stood out to me.
I agree. There's no veteran offensive lineman there on the back end. Van DeMark, Anderson, Van Granger, and Grable, all very young guys, but that kind of goes with the youth movement that they're trying to have here. So I really like that. And then the other thing is, only 5 wide receivers. We kind of thought the 6 wide receiver would be there and that, we would not really be cutting ourselves short here. But like we talked about, it's a numbers game, and they chose to go short on the skill positions, which, says a lot about what they think of the tight ends, in my opinion. So we'll see where that works out and how, if that stays, the case as we get closer to week 1, if they end up adding someone as a 6th and then maybe taking someone off another position. But definitely the linebacking core. I was more surprised at Baylon Spector than Joe Andreessen. I thought Andreessen earned the heck out of it, but Baylon Spector maybe didn't, and I thought he could maybe go to the practice squad and be elevated. Same thing, that you were thinking. I didn't necessarily know that he needed a roster spot, but he definitely brings some special teams ability, and when he's healthy, he's got some skills. So I don't hate the player as far as Baylon Spector goes. I just don't know that he's done really enough to warrant that 53-man roster spot. So definitely agree with John. The Casey Toohill thing, given that, the same situation with La'el Collins, it seemed like, okay, the opposite, and they chose Toohill over Collins, which was a little surprising to me. And I like Toohill. I think that he's like really a great fit for this scheme and the whole rotational thing. I just feel like, yeah, he didn't get going yet in the preseason and whatnot, but I really feel like they're going to give him as a veteran that opportunity to sit into his role and see where he can go, because he does have that high motor. And if you're rotating him and he's only playing, 12, 15, 20 snaps a game, he's going to go all out on those and be pretty productive. But, 5 sacks in 8 games in that role a year ago, I think he's going to be able to come in and do some things for this team.
Yeah, he was banged up in camp too. So
Right.
he definitely made the team based on what he put on tape in real NFL games last season. He had kind of like a leg up on some of the other guys there. Like I wasn't as surprised he made the team. I kind of felt like he would. Just like we said, based on what he put on tape last season when he was given reps after the Commanders traded away Sweat. And then as far as receivers go, like I'm interested to see if they elevate people on game day. Like this roster is definitely not done being tinkered with. So even like one of those guys in the practice squad, like Shavers and Hamler are on the practice squad. They brought in Jalen Virgil on the practice squad. So imagining one of those guys gets elevated on game day, maybe they do roll with 6 receivers, but because it's easier than ever to elevate practice squad guys now. So maybe this is just the roster for now, and one of those guys ends up getting added when someone goes to IR. Like, who knows? We're a long way from the final roster, even though we have a final roster.
Well, they went defense heavy, right? 27 defensemen and 27 on the defense, 23 on the offense, then 3 special teamers. So that I think also, kind of shocked me a little bit that they went that heavy defense. I thought it might be, 26, 24, 25, 25, but they decided to go with the 27 on defense there. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens if they do keep continuing to make moves. So that kind of does bring us to my next question here for you guys. Do you think they'll regret any of the moves? I mean, they didn't make any super shocking ones. Nobody that, that some teams cut people and traded guys, the Rams traded Ernest Jones for pretty much nothing, which shocked a lot of people. A lot of some pretty shocking moves around the league. Bills didn't really have any ones that you were like really scratching your head at and just really wondering what Brandon Beane was thinking. So do you think there is a move that they are going to regret, whether it's cutting somebody or not cutting somebody?
I don't think so. And I think what shows that most is that no one that we cut got claimed. So no one else really wanted them either. The one that maybe they could regret is not like signing one of those receivers who got cut. Like I thought Noah Brown would have fit in really well as a wide receiver 4 or 5 here. He was a guy that like we talked about in like free agency or in the offseason, talked about them signing, and that's maybe the only thing they could regret, not grabbing like one of those receivers who got cut, but also like they got cut. So how much of a big difference would they make? But yeah,
we don't know that they didn't try either, right? Where there's no saying that they didn't try to do that either.
Exactly. So yeah, no, I don't think there's anything they'll regret, but who knows? That could definitely change once they put the pads on.
Yeah, I agree that the answer for me would be no, because of what Scott said. Everyone's back really on the practice squad that they cut, I think. So I don't think they necessarily lost anyone. We'll see what happens here with the secondary and with guys in the, Kareem Jackson, Lewis Cine, and what that safety room does. And they may regret not going out and getting that Justin Simmons player earlier in the offseason and just rolling with what they got. I could see that as a regret they might have, if they're going to rely on guys like Kareem Jackson and Lewis Cine, who are on the practice squad right now, that could be something that they may regret if and when it gets to that point. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything major. I do like though what Scott said there with maybe, which kind of brought me to the next question as well. Do you wish they would have claimed anybody or just signed anybody? That's really, I think, what they'll really regret more is not bringing in somebody like a Noah Brown. Noah Brown was somebody that right before free agency, I really wanted them to get. Obviously goes back to Houston, then gets cut, and I don't even actually know where he ended up now. I can see. Let's see, Noah Brown. But he was a guy that right after again he got
Commanders.
The Commanders. So again, maybe that. The only other thing that I think they might have regretted was not making that trade with the Commanders for Dotson. I know that wasn't really a cut day move. I think it was a day or two before that, but that could be something that they end up regretting there as well. But again, I don't think anything is going to be majorly regretted. I mean, if you do end up going to get a Dotson, you're pretty much just putting together the Commanders receiving corp, which without Scary Terry. So, you know, I don't think they're going to regret anything major, like you guys said. I do wish they would have claimed maybe Noah Brown, or not claimed to sign Noah Brown. Lewis Cine was one of the guys that I said I really wish they did go out and get. They went out and got him. So, yeah, nothing major. Frank Gore Jr., I'm glad they brought him back as well. I was really kind of scared somebody might take him and go, you know, on an official 53-man roster. So we'll see what happens there. And John actually just said that Noah Brown's on their practice squad. So if they end up, you know, needing a guy, they could reach out and go in to get Noah Brown there. So we'll see. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you guys wish they would have made any moves? I know, Scott, you kind of just answered, but was there anybody else that kind of stood out to you that you wish they would have made a move on, or what do you think?
Not really. I was also interested in seeing, just because there's so much raw potential there. And I know it's rare that first round picks who flame out in places like go somewhere else and are successful, but the one that we sign is always going to be the one. And I know that Brandon Beane said he was someone that they really wanted, like they went after and got. And it was kind of nice that there was the news that he signed with the Jets, and then like an hour later it was like, actually, no, he's going to the Bills. So it was nice to take someone that they wanted. But no, like not really. Like it kind of gets to the point too where it's like, who do you take off? I know like some people might think Hill, some people might think like DeMar Hamlin if the safeties are healthy. So I feel good about the roster that they have. An extra receiver I think would have been nice, or maybe like another safety just based on the injury health that they had. But those guys know a lot more than we do about where everybody's at health wise, and if they didn't worry about it and address it, then I'm not going to worry about it and wish they addressed it. So, no, I'm happy with the guys that they ended up bringing in. And also, you know, Jalen Virgil, they brought him in too. I know that was another guy that they really wanted because it went on for a couple days there. So, but yeah, nobody else.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously wish they could have pulled off like a Brandon Ayuk trade or something. That would be good to have more certainty in the wide receiver room right now. But other than that, like, there wasn't anybody out there that I necessarily thought was like going to change the course of the season or anything, or like be that big of a difference maker. So I kind of, I think that really what they've done so far is nice. They've got a good 53 here, and we'll see how it changes over the next week or so going into the first game.
Yeah. Well, that'll do it for at least the final 53 talk for right now. We're going to take a quick pause for Scott's 1 minute here. So we will toss it over to Scott.
Somehow I muted myself, but I'm back. Talk about one of my favorite topics, and that is gambling. I'm going to talk to you about some future bets I like for this season for the Bills. And I'll have an article coming out sometime this weekend or early next week on some future bets I like for the whole season. So the first one I like is Josh Allen over 3,800 yards. That's at -112. I think that's really good value. He's thrown for over 3,800 yards the last 4 seasons, basically after he got Diggs and kind of took that next step forward. He's hit that every year, and I think he will again, just because I know they're going to run the ball more, but we still do have the second best quarterback in the NFL. So they're going to throw the ball a lot. If you like that, you might even like Josh Allen at 4,000 yards at even money. I also like Khalil Shakir over 750 yards. That's at +110. He could be the number 1 receiver in this offense. And I think early in the year, he gets a lot of targets because Josh Allen is comfortable throwing him the ball. So I think over 750 at plus money. Also like Josh over 27.5 passing touchdowns at +104. I think he hits that. He's hit that pretty much every year since his rookie year. And then the last one, the Jets overtook the Bills to win the AFC East as betting favorites. So you can get the Bills all the way up at +195 to win the AFC East. And as we know as Bills fans, the Jets are always going to find a way to beat the Jets. So you can get the Bills at almost 2-1 right now. So those are some things I like for this season. Tail along if you want, and if you win, you're welcome. And if you don't win, bet responsibly, and you didn't hear it from me.
Right on. Yeah, I like whatever. If you could, I couldn't find it quickly, but if you can find me whatever the odds are for Keon Coleman over whatever touchdown mark they have him at, I'm going to take that.
I know he's +3,700 to win Rookie of the Year.
All right.
I'm going to go with actually a non-football one. I'm going to go with the hockey one with the Buffalo Sabres. to make the playoffs is plus 162. I know a lot of people don't like what they did this offseason, but at the end of the day, I think they buffed up the bottom six, which was the major problem last year. Hopefully they can stay healthy. Jack Quinn coming back. Hopefully they can get it rolling there. New coach over there with Lindy coming back. I know Scott doesn't really love him, but plus 162 there. I like out there. And then I don't know the odds, but just to piss Scott off, I'm going to say the New Jersey Devils to miss the playoffs once again. So I don't know what the odds are, but you can go ahead and look it up. But I'm going to go with two hockey ones there because before we know it, hockey's going to be going as well. And we're going to be rooting for two Buffalo teams, except for Scott. Scott's only going to be rooting for one.
Lance, he is over 4.5, and that is plus 114. I kind of like that too.
Yeah, I love that. Let me find that. I'm using BetMGM, so they don't have necessarily all the stuff that everything else has.
I found it on FanDuel. I'm gonna add that one to my list right now.
Check it out.
Put in the chat if there's any bets that any of you guys like, and I'll tail along with y'all as well.
Yeah, Bob came in. Maybe a punter. Sam Martin is terrible. When it talk about what happened, with the Bills here and making any sort of moves, I was definitely surprised. Sam Martin's not been great. Definitely has had some impressive work here, but not necessarily consistent enough for us. And we have a kicker and a punter now being inconsistent, and maybe those special teams roles could have been shored up during this offseason. They did bring in Jack Browning and quickly, released him before I thought he had a chance even to win a job. So maybe they thought he was good enough to go out there and get on with another team, and they gave him that chance. But the special teams units, the kicker and punter, are definitely going to be something to watch as we move forward.
Yeah. Before we get into the next topic, we do have a question here from Blue Don Kreider. Hopefully, hope I pronounced that right for you. But it's, what are the realistic expectations for the playoffs this season? I just going to go quick. I think, yes, they'll be a playoff team. I think they'll win at least one playoff game again, but it might be another disappointing ending, in my opinion, unless they can go out and make a move elsewhere for maybe another target, or maybe Joe Brady and Josh Allen and everybody proves me wrong, and this offense is better in this way. But just to me, yes, I still have confidence in Josh Allen. I still have confidence in Sean McDermott, but I just think this team is in that not rebuild, but reload season, and it's going to be next season that they really kind of make that huge push once again for deep in the playoffs. So that's at least my thoughts there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the Bills are plus 180 on BetMGM, plus 195 where Scott shows for the division, plus 135 to win 11 plus regular season games, and plus 850 for the old AFC Championship. So my realistic expectations are for the Bills to compete for a Super Bowl. I don't think that there's any reason they cannot do that. I know they don't have Stephon Diggs, but if you think about Matt Milano, if they can come out and beat the teams they're supposed to beat, and maybe split with a couple of teams where it's going to be close games, because they have a lot of those, and if they can, win a few of those, you're in the playoffs. And then Matt Milano's coming back. You have rookies who are coming up to speed, and I just think that guys like Ray Davis and Keon Coleman and those, and Javon Solomon even are really going to be coming on after the bye week to really make help this team make a push into the postseason and really be a legitimate contender.
Yeah, they're minus 164 to make the playoffs. On the lines are coming from FanDuel. I definitely think they make the playoffs. Like, they have Josh Allen, so their Super Bowl window is wide open as long as they have him. Are they a Super Bowl favorite this year like they were the past couple of years? I don't know. I definitely think they make the playoffs. I think they're going to win the division, just because I don't think the Jets will be as good as people think they will. And the Dolphins, I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year, and they tend to crumble down the stretch. That's their favorite thing to do. I think they'll definitely make the playoffs. What they do when they get in there, who knows? But I will say they have Josh Allen as their quarterback, so they have as good a chance to go on a run as anybody. he has shown in the 2021 playoff run and even a little bit last year in the playoffs that when he's on, he can play as well as anybody probably ever. So if he gets hot at the right time and gets some timely defensive stops, who knows? But I don't know if this is a Super Bowl or bust year like the past couple were, but it's definitely kind of a transition, like you said, to next year when they have a lot more cap space and we kind of start like Josh Allen era 2.0 at going for the Super Bowl.
Yeah. So let us know what you guys think though down below. I mean, like Scott said, with Josh Allen, anything's possible. So if they do end up making a huge run to the Super Bowl, I'm not going to be like overly shocked. This year I don't necessarily see it, especially compared to past seasons. But again, I hope that they prove me wrong. I hope that you can look at this clip. I hope people clip this and then show me again at the end of the year when we're lifting the Lombardi Trophy. I won't be mad. I will still be happy. So we'll see what happens though. But let us know what you guys think. What are your expectations for them? Do you think that they make the playoffs? And then if they make the playoffs, how far do you think that they'll go? So yeah, great question there from Blue Don Kreider. Hope you're still in the chat. I know he asked that a little bit ago, but we'll see. So on to the last little bit before Lance's 1 minute. But what do we got here? We got Mike White coming in. I saw actually a comment here right beforehand. Oh, yep, from Sandra here. Mike White is going to be QB2, which is perfect because that is our question up next. What do you guys think? There might be some changes here coming. We talked about Mitch Trubisky still not on IR yet. He's still in the boot, as I think John said up there, but he's been practicing, but still kind of just limping around, not 100%. So what do you think? Do you think Mike White becomes the QB2? Do you think it's just for a little bit to start the season, or do you think he's never even elevated off the practice squad? We'll start with you, Lance.
I think he's going to start as the backup, potentially. I'm not really sure what they can do with Mitch. If they're not putting him on IR right away, maybe they make him inactive and elevate Mike White the first couple weeks, like Scott suggested. That's my best guess. I think it's going to be hard pressed for Mitch to suit up week one and be ready to go if he needs to be. Hopefully he doesn't need to be, and we don't have to talk about it because, regardless of who our backup quarterback is, if they have to play any significant amount of time, it's not going to really matter. There's not going to be Carson Wentz, Nick Foles type scenario, I don't think, or anything like that. So, and if there is, I think maybe Mike White would have a better chance of becoming that than Mitch Trubisky would. But we'll see. Mitch obviously didn't show me anything on the field during the preseason that suggested he could be super effective. But I also think he's hopefully never going to see the field and we don't have to worry about it.
People forget Mike White was AFC Player of the Week, Week 8, 2021. People forget about that. The next week they then played the Bills, and I think the Bills beat him 42-7 or something. So that ended his Linsanity type run. But yeah, I don't think Mike White is the long-term QB2. I think it is still Trubisky. But yeah, he could be early on if Mitch is actually hurt. They haven't really said what's wrong with him. We haven't really seen anything about it. Someone commented that he practiced with a brace. I didn't see that. He could have. So yeah, and we're a week away. That wasn't the guy last week who looked like he was 2 weeks away from playing in a football game, or at least standing on the sideline in gear in a football game. So yeah, I think Mike White starts off at QB2. How long that goes for, I don't know. But yeah, like you said, Lance, if Josh Allen gets hurt, they might as well put one else at quarterback because it'll probably go just about as well, which is not. So hopefully we don't find out.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, at this point, I don't really even care if it's Mike White or Mitch Trubisky. I mean, I don't think is there that much of a difference between their two plays? Is there that much difference between the players? I mean, Mike White, as Scott said, went on that little run in 2021. Mitch Trubisky's years are now 4 or 5 years away from the last time that he was a starting quarterback and led a team to the playoffs in Chicago. Mm-hmm. So he's not the same either. So it's I like both of them as third options, not so much even second options. But I don't know. I saw a lot of people wanting to prioritize backup quarterback, especially on cut day, saying make a big move. At the end of the day, there's not too many backup quarterbacks you can get at a good price that the Bills would like, that you're going to be content with. So unless you're going to go out and trade for maybe even a Jameis Winston, who's not even necessarily a guy that I put up there as a guy that I would be confident in back there with the Bills, there's not too many great options there. So we'll see what happens. And I see Bob just commented here, trade Mitch to Pitt for Fields. That would be hilarious if they did that, considering, Mitch was there last year. They just got Fields. If they did that, that'd be awesome. I would love Fields as a backup, but I don't know how plausible that one is. But yeah, like I said, I don't know how much you'd have to give up to even get a guy like a Fields or a guy like a Jameis Winston that maybe the Bills wouldn't. I don't even think they'd be comfortable giving up what they would have to give up to get a solid quarterback number 2. But Mike White, I do think, starts the season at least as quarterback 2. Again, hopefully we never have to see either of them. But, we'll see if they end up making a move down the road. But I think Mitch, at least for this season and next season, is the backup quarterback just due to his contract. So you guys get me.
I would love Jameis Winston for the vibes, though, and the pregame speeches. Like that's worth at least a win right there.
Oh, yeah. You can never go wrong with getting a guy that isn't good in the locker room. You can never go wrong with that. So, and then I did see John here just said Tyler Huntley. Did Tyler Huntley get anybody?
Baltimore just signed him.
Baltimore signed him back. Well, that makes a lot of sense there. But yeah, he would have been a guy. I would not have minded him as either. Actually, I probably would have liked him a little bit more than maybe Mitch and Mike White, just because of his athletic ability as well. But at the end of the day, still doesn't exactly make me jump with joy for a backup quarterback there. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Hopefully, again, like we never have to see that. But we got another question here. Moving on, which position group we talked about a little bit, kind of about the roster. What you regret, what you wish they did. This was one that Lance, I know you were really wanted to touch on. So we're going to start with you again. Which position group worries you the most on this team?
Yeah, it's got to be, either wide receiver or corner, because I like Elam. I don't know how much I love Ingram, and then they have Codrington as a corner, but beyond that, there's nobody else there. So it's like, as many injuries as we sustained, and as physical as we ask our DBs to play, that defensive backfield is a little bit of a concern there. But more so wide receiver. Like if you have a guy go down now, Curtis Samuel already kind of hampered, and then and Valdez-Scantling as well. So you have 2 out of your 5 already like going in to the season a little bit, at least like not 100% right away. So the receiver position definitely, the concern there is just if they sustain more than or any injuries, really, like who comes in and fills those spots, because they're valuable and there's not a lot of proven guys there. So that's the concern is where do you go if a guy goes down and you don't have a lot of depth, and 3 out of the 5 you don't really know exactly what you're going to necessarily get from them in this offense either. So
for me, it's the linebacker position. We talked earlier in the season or in the off season, we said it might be the deepest position group on the roster, and it might be, but as Marv Levy said, depth is a great thing until you have to use it. We intended on having Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard be the starting linebackers. You don't have to worry about it. We don't have Matt Milano anymore. And then Nick Morrow was hurt for most of all of training camp. Who knows how healthy he's going to be when the season starts. I like Spector when he's on the field, but I think his career long for most consecutive quarters played without being injured is somewhere around 3.5. And then Dorian Williams, he's showed some flashes last year, but he's also really questionable. He wasn't that good in coverage, and our linebackers are asked to cover a lot. And then Joe Andreessen, he was a great story, but do we really feel comfortable if he has to go out there and play meaningful snaps? Like, I don't think that I do. And Ulafosha was brought in mostly as a special teams guy. So there's a lot of question marks at that position that we didn't think there would be. So I'm definitely not confident in whoever is out there beside Terrell Bernard. I don't even know if the Bills know who that's going to be at next week. So it'll be kind of a big surprise for all of us. So it'll definitely be something to follow. And if we can kind of limp along when Milano comes back, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. I mean, receiver, as much as, I even see the comment there from Bills fan 783 about just overall progression and overall they're better. We said the same thing last year, though. Overall, the wide receiver group was better than the year before that. And necessarily we don't know if that is true. You know, on paper, it might look better than last year. But Hardy didn't live up to expectations last year. Sherfield didn't live up to expectations last year. And Davis, I don't think, lived up to expectations last year. You could say the same thing this year. What if Hollins doesn't live up to expectations? What if Coleman doesn't? Samuel, what if none of them do? I mean, it's a big guessing game with receivers, so that's definitely one up there. Linebacker, like you said, Scott, but I'm going to go a different direction. I'm going to go with one, and I saw Bob here saying it, can't beat a dead horse, but it's special teams to me is a worry, especially with this schedule, especially with the start of this schedule. You know, you look at the teams that they start with, the Cardinals, who now Kyler Murray is even healthier. They have an actual weapons for him there. They'll be a better team. The Dolphins, Jags, Ravens, Texans, Jets, just to even start the season, you cannot lose field position battle against these guys. You will lose. We've seen it happen before with the Bills. You lose field position, you miss a kick, or you shank a punt, which we've seen Sam Martin do plenty of times, and you are really in trouble now because, again, you have a linebacking core that's young. You have receiving core that is brand new. You have a lot of new pieces here, and if you're already putting your back against the wall on both offense and defense when it comes to field position, you're going to lose, especially to teams like the Ravens, to the Dolphins, to the Jags, to the Texans. Those are tough teams, the Jets too. I mean, you cannot put yourself in a position to allow them to start their average field position at the 40-yard line or even the 35. And you can't put yourself in a position to, if you're in a 45-yard field goal, to be nervous about it. You have to be confident. And I still have some confidence in Tyler Bass. I think he can turn it around and really kind of get back to what he was. But there's no guarantee here. If he struggles, you can't just cut him. You can't. I mean, his contract is too much. Sam Martin, I'm not confident in him in the slightest. I wasn't confident in him last year. I was a little bit annoyed that they didn't really kind of put a little bit more onus on punter, at least, bringing in competition throughout this preseason. So, I know people think it's such a small part of the game, but at the end of the day, if you're losing that field position battle, especially to good teams, this is a tough schedule. You are not going to win football games, and it's going to make it a lot tougher for especially this defense who, we don't know what we have at linebacker. We don't know what we have at safety. Corner, yes, we do have Douglas and we have Benford, but after that, how is Elam going to play? How is Ingram going to play? Like, you don't really know that. So that's the one that really worries me, especially going into the season against some offenses that I expect to be able to move the ball. So we'll see what happens there.
Sick Puppies at all, the band? There's a song from them called Gunfight. You don't bring a knife to a gunfight, you'll lose. And when you were talking about losing the field position battle and losing because of that song kind of stuck in my head of like, yeah, you got to, really have all your ammunition this year, especially with some of the way this roster is constructed, some of the, maybe not having those superstars in the certain positions there. You definitely need to have all of your ammunition to win the games, and coming out with inconsistent punting and kicking is going to be pretty hard to overcome if they don't get that straight.
Well, especially, Buffalo, you never know what the weather's going to bring, especially once you hit that November, December. And like I said, I'm more concerned more so about the punting than kicking. I have more confidence in Tyler Bass than I do Sam Martin, especially down once the season gets to November, December, just because we've seen it too many times with punters in Buffalo that just struggle and they almost cost the Bills games because the average starting field position is the 40 or the 50. So we'll see if it ends up being an issue. I hope it doesn't. And, maybe like Bob even just said here, almost better to go for it on fourth down. Maybe due to Tyler Bass's struggles and Sam Martin, maybe they do end up going for it, which I would personally love. If it's 4th and 2, 4th and 3, 4th and 1, I will never complain about going for it when your quarterback is Josh Allen. So we'll see what happens there, though. Do you guys get any last thoughts, though, on at least the position groups before we get to the last question and Lance's 1 minute?
Just one thing to add about going for it on fourth down. Like, could the kicking questions make Sean McDermott more aggressive, which is something that we've clamored for the last few seasons, and he's been a bit more aggressive the past couple of years. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, and like Dan Campbell is the easy example, but like I love the way that he coaches and his players love it and they're aggressive and he doesn't change no matter what. Where like McDermott, like sometimes he'll be aggressive and then the next week it's the same situation that he won't go for it. So it feels like there's a little bit of inconsistency there. So Obviously, I would love to have faith in my punter and kicker, although kickers should be seen and not heard. I'll say that. I'd love it if it makes McDermott more aggressive and they go for it more often. Like, I think with this offense and how good it can be with Josh Allen and the guys that they have who are quick and have the ability to run quick routes, get open in space, like Samuel and Shakir and Kincaid, who can just be bigger and quicker than who's guarding him. Like, yeah, I would love it if it kind of like sneaky makes McDermott more aggressive and ends up being like a good thing for the team.
Yeah.
I think this excuse has got to go away. If it was the holder, Bass would have said it's the holder, and Martin hasn't played well enough at punter to keep him. So I just don't think it's the holder. I think, there may have been times where things didn't go perfectly, and that could be true, but I just really think that the holding things kind of outplayed a little bit. And if it was that, I don't see why they would keep Sam Martin and not try to get somebody else, because Martin hasn't been that good. So if his holding was the issue, Bass would make that known, and I think you would have seen a personnel change there this offseason for sure.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. My opinion. With all due respect, John, I would love your comments, obviously, but I think that's a little bit of a tired take with being the holder. And if it was the holder, why would they have kept him? Because Sam Martin hasn't done anything in the punting game really to warrant a roster spot necessarily. And he's very good directionally at times, and other times kicks it right into the middle for the guy to make a return. So inconsistent. And if he's inconsistent at punting and holding, why the heck would you have the guy in a roster? I don't really understand.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, that's a really good comment here from Bills fan as well. Bills fan 783 of Sal Capaccio said that Martin has held for 2 Pro Bowl kickers in his career. The holding narrative, yeah, it again, if it's been this long, like you said, Lance, I think you said it perfectly there. We got to it's on Tyler Bass at this point. He is now a veteran in the NFL. He's got to make these kicks. So, but we'll see what goes on there. Last question, which we kind of already touched on a little bit. Not really, in-depth question, but just give me one guy. If you want more than one, you can have more than one, but give me one guy that is not on this roster come week 1, or at least not active week 1 that is on this roster right now. Scott, we'll start with you.
So one guy who's on the roster now who won't be active week 1, I think Mitch Trubisky. Then the easy switch for that would be Mike White. I just don't know if I see Mitch being healthy by then, and like why risk it when you do have all those practice squad elevations, and it's pretty easy to do so. So I talked about it a bit earlier, but yeah, I would go Mitch Trubisky, not active for week 1.
Yeah, I'm going to go probably with Eddie Olafosho. I'm not sure if he's going to be active week 1 or not. We'll see if he intertwines himself on the special teams and things like that. He may be able to do that, but we'll see what happens. I don't think that each one of those linebackers will be, and I'm kind of choosing. I think Andreessen is active potentially, but one of those last 3 linebackers, Spector, Olafosho, and Andreessen, I'm going to go with Eddie Olafosho that may not be active on week 1. Who's on there right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna go safety. I keep going back and forth. I do think Hamlin will be active just because, again, he's been on this team. He knows the roster. I think it could end up being Cam Lewis. I know that he also has been here, but I think just with the depth that they have, I'm not sure that they'll not 100% need Cam Lewis come week 1. So I think he could be inactive. I think he'll be one of the inactives for the team this year, or for the squad this year, on and off. Because I think Ingram ends up making the 53, or not 53, making the active roster come game days. So I do think Cam Lewis. I could see DeMar, but I think it's going to be Lewis at least week 1 that ends up being inactive.
Cam Lewis is one of our best special teams guys, though. You got to think about that.
Yeah,
that is true. I mean, it's tough. At this roster, there's not too many guys that I look at that I'm like, yeah, 100% they're not going to be active. The only one that, like you said, might be Mitch just because of his injury. And then one linebacker definitely won't be, whether it's Andreessen, Olafosho, Spector, at least right now, has the questionable logo against his name. So maybe they keep him out, but we'll see. So that's going to do it for this little bit here. We got one last thing here. We got Lance's 1 minute here. So Lance, go ahead, take it over.
Yeah, so I wanted to just do a little bit of a favor for my guy, Matt Holman. Great dude. a really good part of Built in Buffalo. And I wanted to highlight his article. I'm going to put his article in the comments here if you guys want to check it out. And he wrote an article about the Bills' all-time greatest 53-man roster. So I want to just ask you who are your all-time great players? For me, I think of guys like LaShawn McCoy was one of my favorite Bills that came here. Bruce Smith is my favorite all-time Bill. Easy to love him because he was so great. And then Aaron Schobel, another guy who maybe people don't think of enough. Matt snubbed my guy LaShawn McCoy at running back. James, he did it by the AV metric, and James Cook in 2023 overtook LaShawn McCoy's 2016 season there. And obviously Bruce Smith, the greatest, he's on the all-time 53. And then I was surprised. I looked down and Aaron Schobel there, his 06 Aaron Schobel season had a AV of 14, which puts him 3 on the depth chart for defensive ends. So, for me, those are the 3 that I really looked for when I looked at the all-time 53-man roster article that Matt wrote. So do me a favor, go out there, check out Matt's article, and then let us know down below what the greatest 53 or greatest Bills of your fandom are, and see if they're on the 53 there with that article.
Yeah, my favorite Bill when I was a little kid was Doug Flutie. I know he's definitely not on the all-time 53, but I think I was Doug Flutie for Halloween like every year, ages like 4 through 6. And I got older. I liked Fred Jackson a lot. He was just so fun to watch, and he was a D3 guy. I was a D3 guy, so I thought that was just like really cool to see that he made it, from like the lowest level of collegiate football to being like what was in the league, like almost 10 years, like almost a star running back in the NFL for a while. So those are my 2 guys growing up.
Yeah, Fred Jackson was one for me. And then I'm kind of upset that he doesn't have a returner on here, which I would go with a guy that growing up for me that I, 1, loved his interviews every time because they were hilarious, and 2, was kind of electric returner was Leotis McKelvin. Always, that my one of my favorite interviews of all time was when he was talking about the Dolphins and basically saying that they were going to beat and then another swear word, which I'm not going to say on here. But, if he did have returner on here, which I don't see that he does, I would have absolutely loved to see Leotis McKelvin back there. A lot of obviously great returners, but he was one. Fred Jackson, like you said, Scott, was another one of my favorites growing up. So yeah, not too many though that, it's definitely an awesome read, awesome to see what seasons he picked. And then I do agree that I think Shady should have been on here maybe over James Cook's 2023 season, but James Cook's 2023 season was a pretty good one. So I can't really fault him there, but nothing major for me.
I definitely still have a unopened box of Flutie Flakes to whoever commented that. So
yeah, Uncle Bud definitely had me rich with Flutie Flakes as a young guy, so definitely appreciate that. And I think Teron Johnson, it's worth mentioning, he also cracked this list there with his last year's 23 season. So anybody that thinks that a guy like Teron Johnson is underrated anymore or anything like that, I think you really got to the greatest half as a Bill of all time, RIP. Really good list and really good article. It's fun to read, and Matt does a good job of kind of highlighting some of these guys' career. So shout out to him, and wanted to highlight a fellow Built in Buffalo thing for my 1 minute. Just appreciate all the work that our crew puts in, and likewise with Scott and Ben here with me. When I thought about doing this show, you guys were a couple of the people I said, definitely want to work with. And we just have a bunch of guys out in Built in Buffalo that do really good work here. So if you haven't done so yet, please like and share on Facebook. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and like it there as well. Love all the comments tonight. Keep that flowing. We're going to be back at 8 p.m., our normal start time next week. We're going to have some preview of the Cardinals game. And yes, RIP to Johnny Hockey there. A very sad news. And Matt. And it sounds like they were riding their bike and maybe were hit by an impaired driver. So with that being said, I'll kind of
driving $15, $20, whatever it is, Uber, whatever, get a ride. That's all I gotta say.
Hit me up. I'll Venmo and pay your Uber ride. Come on. Let's have a safe weekend out there. Check out Izzy on Sunday with his Red Zone report, and then Mondays with Buffalo Against the World. Tuesdays, we're going to be doing some spaces on Twitter, and then Wednesday, the Going Deep podcast, and Thursday, the Hoof. Also have our guy Dave Myers going out there with First and Five. So check out his stuff that he's got going on, kind of dropping it when he has time. So it's really good to see Dave out there doing some more content, because he's obviously the catalyst for this all, and we really appreciate his time and effort to give us a platform to talk Bills once a week. So really great show tonight, guys. Really appreciate everyone out there, and we'll look forward to previewing this Cardinals game and get rolling. We're into the season now, and also just want to mention our sponsors one more time: Buffalo Media Sports and More. If you look in the comments there, the link to that's there. Monster Energy Drink, the official partner, energy partner of Built in Buffalo. Shout out to the Big Tree Inn. We're going to be over there on game days for tailgates. So check out the Big Tree Inn. Give them a call. Go to their Facebook page or call the bar and talk to them. They'll guide you in the right spot. You can get season parking pass over there. Hopefully they're trying to fill the lot there and don't have to do any day of game parking, but they do have some room over there right now. So check out the Big Tree Inn. Went for wing night last night and got my vendor permit signed by the owner. So it was a nice little vibe there with the wing night and everything. They do a great job with their food, and probably some of the most underrated wings over there, and just a stone throw from Mr. Shoop. But yeah, any last words, guys? Any final thing? I mean, Scott, what's your favorite bet? I don't think I can bet on Syracuse. So what do you think for anything with this college football weekend here?
Yeah, so my favorite college bet tomorrow is over 59.5 in Alabama, Western Kentucky. Both teams are going to run very high tempo, kind of fast paced, score a lot of point offense. Western Kentucky runs an air raid. So they're going to score. They're not going to score a lot of points on Alabama, but I think they're going to score at least, if they can get us to 17 or 21, I know Bama's going to score 40. Say what you want about Jalen Miller throwing the ball. It may not be the best, but with Peter DeBoer, who's a super great offensive-minded head coach, I think that game's going to be a shootout. Bama's going to win by a lot, but maybe some garbage points by Western Kentucky at the end gets us over the hump. So over 59.5 in Alabama, Western Kentucky tomorrow is my favorite bet of the week.
I got nothing really else. Scott's the betting guy, so I lose too much to kind of put it out there for anybody.
I am hammering tennis. I just won $95 while we were on the show. I just threw $20 on Nakashima. What's his name? He beat Musetti. He broke Musetti in a thing, and so I'm having a fantastic time with this U.S. Open so far. With some parlays and just people to break. They're always plus money to break the server, and you can just kind of eat when you get a couple of those right. You gotta be willing to lose a couple but as you throw those in and follow the game and kind of get a pattern, I've been fairly successful. So yeah, guys, thanks as always, and we'll say go Bills.